We are about 60 minutes away from being done with E.L. James books forever.
You promise? You promise?
No, I don't promise.
No!
I cannot promise.
No!
They are just too good a source of suffering and comedy for our show.
Can you make me a promise? Can you at least promise me that we are done with anything related to 50 Shades of Grey? Like, I would be okay with reading something if this woman managed to scrape together some talent and write something new. Maybe I would be willing to read it, but not no more. No more
Anna. I will promise you that. We will no longer read anything related to 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay.
But if E.L. James writes another book, E.L. James writes another book, we are absolutely going to read that.
My wife just sneaked in and scared the shit out of me. You know, we didn't actually say what this show was. We just started immediately cursing E.L. James.
So, welcome to another episode of Your Book is Why Daddy Drinks. This is Season 4, Episode 7, where we read Grey by E.L. James.
Grey, Tyler, she's making heart hands.
I see it, but she can't hear that I'm doing our intro right now. She's adorable and I love her, but we got to get through this crap.
Yes, we do. All right.
Grey is 50 Shades of Grey, the first book of her series from Christian Grey's point of view. Now, I decided to read this book because when 50 Shades of Grey came out and it got super popular, everybody was like all worried. They're like, it depicts a horribly unhealthy relationship, and he's a stalker, and he's an abuser, and he's this, and he's that. And I wanted to say, just no, one, he's not. You don't know, you haven't read it, so you can't really say he is. Plus, we don't know what he's going through all of this. And then this book came out and I'm like, okay, now finally I can be like, see? Oh my God, was I wrong?
You were totally fucking wrong. You owe every person you doubted or you tried to dismiss their feelings about 50 Shades of Grey. You owe all of them a motherfucking apology.
I never dismissed anyone's feelings. I simply asked them to consider the information they did not have yet.
That being said,
a high school science teacher stands up in front of his class.
Okay.
He holds up a notebook. The kids are all looking at the notebook, and they see the cover of the notebook, and it's a big red notebook cover. And he says, "This notebook is blue." And all the kids start arguing with him. "No, it's red. We can see that it's red. It's red. It's red." And he says, "No, this notebook is blue." And they yell and they're just arguing with him. They're so angry, and they're adamant that it's red. And then he turns it around, and the back cover is blue. And he says, "You can't make an argument unless you have all the information." And that's all I asked, is that people not make these knee-jerk reactions. But now we have all the information. Christian Grey is an awful, awful person. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So, I am not going to do my usual synopsis because...
We don't need to.
No, we don't need to. If you want to know
the exact plot of the book.
Yeah, if you want to get the synopsis, go fucking listen to the 50 Shades of podcast, 50 Shades of Grey podcast again. It's the same exact plot. And by and large, it's the same exact dialogue. We get 50 Shades of Grey from Christian's perspective. It basically starts a little bit earlier in his day, and goes through everything. Basically, we get his perspective, his working with the food deal and defer. We get his...
You've gotten muted. I think you hit your button.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. So basically, it starts out, a little bit earlier in the day for him before the fateful interview with Anastasia Steele, and we get and the only things that are really new in this book are his interactions with his staff, Of course, his perceptions and his thoughts, which are fucking terrible. We'll get to that in a moment, though. And the only slight shred of a new plot that we get that was not evident in the first book is that towards the end, when Christian is in Georgia, having stalked Anna there, basically he is called away suddenly. And the reason why he is called away is because his I don't know if she was his second to last sub before he met Anna or what, but this woman named Layla apparently somehow got past his building security, got into his apartment, surprised his housekeeper, cook, whatever she is, and basically slit one of her wrists in front of this woman. The housekeeper then calls the police, as one should. They pick her up and take her to the hospital, and somehow she escapes the hospital, and the police can't find her. And the backstory on her is that she supposedly met this guy who wasn't Christian, and they broke off. Christian and her amicably, I believe, broke off their relationship because she supposedly found this guy, and she went off and got married to him, and it was supposedly all roses and kittens. And you come to find out that actually no, while they did get married and they did meet each other, they got married at like one of those like 24-hour drive-through chapels in Vegas. And like they get in touch with her husband, and he's like, I haven't seen her in like 2 weeks, and I think she's supposed to be at her mom's place, and you need to, and like he's a deadbeat, basically. Like he's just kind of a scumbag, and that's it. You don't know. That's it. That's the only new plot significant addition to 50 Shades of Grey that E.L. James decided to add. Otherwise, it's just the first book, but it's told from his perspective. And that's it. That's all the synopsis I'm really going to give. Before I start swearing uncontrollably like a person with a very serious case of Tourette's, Tyler, what did you think of the book?
I think E.L. James... Okay, so there is a little bit more plot that we get from this book that we didn't get in 50 Shades of Grey. And it was what Christian does when Anna's not there. So when Anna goes home and she's doing her thing, or when she fucking leaves him and goes home and she's crying because there's a helicopter balloon tied to her bed, what's Christian doing at that point? And throughout the entire book, Christian says several times, he makes these references to what his therapist would think if he told him something that was happening. What would his therapist say about that? His therapist would have a field day with that. But throughout the entire book, his therapist is on vacation. And at the very end of the book, his therapist comes back and he finally has a meeting with him. And one, if you're a therapist to a billionaire, you're not going to just go on vacation and not have a way for him to contact you, or you'll give that person a referral to someone else that they can talk to when they need someone to talk to. Especially someone as fucked up as Christian.
Also, he was on, like, I mean, I know that it was kind of like a whirlwind affair, but wasn't, like, he on vacation for, like, 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, he was on vacation for, like, a month.
Yeah, that is, I'm like, I mean, I know that some therapists can make a fuck ton of money. I mean, I know that from my experience with certain therapists, they charge like $200 or $300 an hour, but like a month,
right? But if you really fucking month, well, the dude is a therapist to a billionaire.
Well,
I'm sure he could have only one client and be fine.
That's probably true.
Given the way Christian controls everything in his life and has ready access to all the things that he wants, I cannot buy for a second that his therapist would go away for a month and not be able to be contacted. Anyway, end of the book. Christian and Anna have had this roller coaster of a relationship, and finally she says, I can't be the sub that you say you need. And he's like, well, I can't have a relationship any other way. And they part ways. He goes to his therapist, and the therapist says, well, have you tried just having a normal relationship? And Christian goes, oh, I should just do that. Thanks, Doc. And in one scene, it's like, you never
The
thought about that
drama,
before, Christian?
yeah, the drama of the entire book gets just wiped, undone. It just gets wiped.
It was
out.
fucking anticlimactic theater. And it was like he went to the therapist and said, hey Doc, I'm fucked up. And the therapist went, have you tried just not being fucked up? And he went, oh, I should just do that. Thanks. I'm out. And
So,
and right now, I should say I'm not being insensitive to anyone with mental health issues. Fucked up is the way multiple people describe Christian, including himself.
yeah, that we are solely describing him in the context of his own self-description in the book. Hence the whole "I'm 50 Shades of fucked up" line. Yeah,
and
so
that really frustrated the hell out of me. That at the end he was just like, "Oh, I could just not be the way I am. I could just try to be flexible and have a normal relationship with somebody."
Which
after the entire book, she says several times, "I can't give you what you want," and he's like, "Okay, I won't have it any other way," and then refuses to let her go.
Well, also the thing is that like he goes to his doctor and his doctor tells him that. Now, if you remember, like one of the things like Anna is saying is she's like I want more, and what she means is I want more of an emotional relationship that is not centered around purely sex and kink.
And what does he say it is that she wants? She wants rose petals and
flowers and roses or some bullshit, right? And it's not that, right? She just wants a fucking like emotional connection in some regards, like having him sleep with her, not like sex, but just like in the same bed, her being able to touch him.
He constantly tells her throughout the book, "I don't do that." And then constantly does it.
Well, I mean, that's hints of the whole Edward, right? Like, I don't do that, or you should stay away from me, but I'm going to keep following you, right? Like, we can't have a relationship, but I'm going to keep having a relationship with you. It's just, and even then, like, he likes it, right? Like, he's sleeping better with her, like,
and he constantly keeps saying, "I'm really enjoying this. I had a good time going gliding with you. I'm really enjoying my life in this normal domestic capacity with you." And then he's like, "I can never have that."
But you just did.
Said you enjoyed it,
and you just said you just had it. Like what? Like that's the thing. It's like he's like, "I can't have this thing," but you just had it.
You just did, and you enjoyed it. What the hell is wrong with you?
So okay. What did you think, like, of this book? What was your opinion?
It was entirely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, it taught me new things about the characters, but then made me like them even less. It attempted to make Christian a sympathetic character. You're like, oh, well, he was abused as a child. I don't fucking care. I know a lot of people who were abused as a child, and they go to therapy and they deal with it.
They don't then use that as an excuse to act like a crazy fucked up person.
Right.
Like a
it
fucking
doesn't.
fucker.
It, especially considering that it happened before the age of 3, which means he doesn't have any actual memories of the things that happen. Like, he has some very vivid scenes in the book where he talks about them, and it's like, there's no way you remember that from before you were 3 years old.
Yeah.
And the things that happened back then should not shape everything he does now. I can understand I don't like to see food get wasted. I'm going to make sure everyone can get food, and that has shaped who he is. But the way that the abuse he experienced controls everything in his life now,
It
that
seemed a little unbelievable.
unbelievable. And if it's true, incredibly unhealthy. And I don't think someone with those kind of hangups could become as successful in business as he was.
Especially because his success, like, and that's the thing is, I don't know if it's ever explained elsewhere how he became a fucking billionaire at his relatively
Never
young
is. They
age.
never really explained how he
Well,
came up in the ranks of
we don't
business.
know like if that's explained in book 2 and 3, right?
Pretty sure
And
it's not.
so, and
I went and read the synopses for books 2 and 3, just because I needed to know what else happened without actually reading the books. And it's like they get fucking crazy, and not and like the girlfriend from the end of this book figures really heavily into the next couple of books. Like she kidnaps Anna, or Anna gets kidnapped, or Anna and Christian get married and they have a baby, and then she gets pregnant, and then this woman is like, she kidnaps her Anna's boss is like a sexual harasser, and like that completely edifies Christian, and he's like, yeah, I told you not to go near him. And like he freezes the company's account when Anna's like, oh, we're going on this work trip, me and my boss. So he freezes all the company's accounts so they can't go.
yeah,
Like he gets mega controlling, and like then the boss like hits on her and blackmails her with, like says, have sex with me or you're gonna get fired, and all this shit. And it's like, then that guy gets fired. He's part of the kidnapping plot, and he's like, tells Anna, I've kidnapped Christian's little sister. You have to give me $5 million or I'll kill her. And if you tell Christian, I'll kill her. And it gets really ridiculous, like out there. And I'm like, that would be way more interesting to read than the shit from the first book.
So apparently, according to the 50 Shades of Grey wiki, Elena gave... Yeah, apparently it has its own wiki. Apparently, Elena gave him $100K to start a business, and then hand wavy, time passing business bullshit, he's eventually Grey Enterprises Holdings. Yeah.
All right, so bullshit is how he did it.
To do that in... So he briefly apparently attended Harvard and dropped out. So you have to figure that maybe he got that money age 20, right? Sound about right? Because most people go to school when they're 18 or 19. So 20, let's just say. So in 7 years, he managed to grow $100,000 into a international business that does things.
Holy shit, Christian Grey is just the fucking poster boy for rich white privilege.
Yeah, and managed to just fucking apparently it grew exponentially in that amount of time. Never mind the fact that that's not actually how that... Okay, anyway.
All right.
So, yeah, go on.
Yeah, the book, it felt very, very unnecessary. And just a lot of things in this book really upset me. Like when he meets Anna for the first time and she leaves, and then he immediately calls his head of security guy and says, do a background check and get me all the information you can on Anastasia Steele. And he does. And what he ends up getting is her social security number, her checking account number, her account balance, and all this other shit that's like, what the fuck kind of background check did you run?
Yeah, it's like, hi, we're going to do things that are I mean, and the thing is, it's like this isn't like, ask her friends what type of music does she like. Does she prefer comedies? Like does she like watching rom
No, it's
coms?
some
This
serious fucking stalker
this
shit.
is this is I'm going to deeply deeply invade your privacy. Like I'm going to know the status of everything in your life. I'm going to know your parents' relationship status,
Oh
and the
yeah,
fact that like he listed out like this dude Welch, like, and I think it's
Welch
interesting
the
that he
fucking miracle worker.
that I think it's funny that he well he's
I'm
like a
pretty sure
douchey.
Welch works for the NSA.
Well,
Like that's the only explanation.
what's interesting, what I found funny is that the guy's name is Welch, and welching is what you mean when you fucking narc, right? Like you give somebody up. It's like it's a slang term for that.
Mhm.
And so like this guy just gets all this information, and like not just on Anastasia, but like her parents. I mean, this is such a violation of her privacy, and a drastic overstepping of any kind of like reasonable expectation of boundaries. um and I mean, and this is the guy who like makes it possible for Christian to find her when she's off getting drunk, and she drunk dials him and says, thanks for the computer or whatever, bye.
Right. Manages to track her cell phone to the building she is in.
Yes. And like Christian, even at that moment, acknowledges that what Welch does for him is probably is illegal, right? Like E.L. James tries to like do a hand wavy thing where she tries to say, "Oh yeah, it's you can totally do that with technology that you like," and then Soda Voice, that you can find in the dark web. Because I think that she doesn't actually know what the deep web is. I think she just read an article about that the deep web is where apparently super criminals live, and that's where hackers can do all kinds of hacker things, and so that's where Welch goes, is he can go to the deep web, and because it's just thrown out there as this detail, and I think it's just I heard this thing, and I'm going to put it in the book as an explanation for why my Deus Ex Machina can do the things it can do. Um, Welch is also the one who apparently hacks the airline information so that Christian can then apparently upgrade her tickets when she's going to Georgia to see her mom and her stepfather.
Upgrading her tickets wasn't the part that bothered me. It was the finding out all of her flight information like in minutes. That's what got me, is like he knew exactly what airline she was flying on, when she was flying, and all that shit. Oh yeah, it's just
So fuck this book. Fuck this book. It's worthless. You hit the nail on the fucking head. It is totally fucking pointless. And I stand by my assertion that E.L. James is a no talent hack, because she wrote, first of all, her original trilogy was fan fiction. It was fan fiction of Stephanie Meyer's Twilight series. It was fan fiction, so automatically or like certain aspects of it, sure, that those things were original, but the whole character concept and everything it was based off of somebody else's idea. Then you have this book, which largely all of the dialogue between Anna and Christian is it's the same. It's the exact same dialogue from the original book, and by and large, it's the same book, right? It's just from a character's different perspective. There is a minuscule amount of original plot in this to fill in certain gaps, and that's it, right? Like we get some stuff regarding his business, but really, it's just it oh god, it's fan fiction for her fan fiction. That's what it is. It's fuck this book, and that's all it is. It's not anything original. It's not anything hard. It's not anything new. It doesn't add anything. And what you were saying at the beginning is completely right. Like the one thing, like I said to the table tonight when we were having dinner, the one thing you could say about the first book is, when you ask what the fuck is he thinking. That's like the one defense, is that you have no idea what's going through his head. Maybe he's a terrible person. Maybe he's not. In this book, they settle the debate, and he's a fucking terrible person. He is everything every critic of the first series of the book when it first came out, everything they said about him is vindicated in this book. He is 100% controlling. Everything, he is totally and 100% self-centered. Right? When he gives her the laptop, it's not that he wants to give her a laptop, it's that he wants to be able to communicate her more easily when he is away from her. It is his desire to talk to her, not anything for her. Same thing for when he gives her the phone. The BlackBerry. When
he gives her a fucking BlackBerry.
Well, yeah, that's not love. When he gives her the car, it's not that he wants to give her a car, and while it's hand waved that he's concerned for her safety, no, it's established that she's been driving the car for 3 years. It regularly gets serviced. It's apparently
because he wants her to be driving that car. He doesn't want her to be driving the other car. So he's like, well, I'm just going to give you this car.
And he doesn't want her driving that other car, in part because it's directly tied to Jose. Because Jose, she got it from Jose because it used to be his mother's car, and she still takes it to Jose because he's so familiar with it because he does the mechanic work on it. So he wants to remove that tie from her. And constantly, every single time a guy in this book looks at her that is not fucking related to her, he loses his fucking mind. Like when he shows up unannounced in the hardware store at the beginning of the book, and the owner's son comes in, and he's getting familiar with her because he's familiar with her. They're friends, and it's implied in the book, the original book, that he's attracted to her. Because she's Bella Swan, and every guy who isn't related to her has to be attracted to her. He just loses his mind, even though there's no reason for him to, right? Like he's just automatically like, get your fucking hands off her, blah blah blah. Same thing with Jose, and yeah, sure, Jose tries to push himself on her when she's drunk, whatever, and yes, that's terrible and that's bad and that's wrong. Christian Grey does the same exact fucking thing, right? So multiple times in this book, he gets her drunk. He gets her drunk to have sex with her because she's more pliable, and he gets her drunk so that he can get her talking. And there's even a point where she asks him, "Did you do this?" And he says, "Yes." And I'm sorry, if you have to ply somebody with alcohol to get them to fuck you, that's wrong. That is rape, and that is wrong. Oh, God, what else? He follows her to Georgia, even though she plainly tells him, "I need space."
Right. She says, I need to be away from you to think. And as soon as she's gone, he's like, all right, I'm going to go to Georgia.
There's that. He buys her company, right? Like, he has
That's
not.
The creepy one.
He has not.
She tells him, she's like, I have interviews with several publishing houses in Seattle. And as soon as she tells him that, he goes, she goes away, and as soon as he's on his own, he calls his assistant, and he's like, we're going to buy a publishing company in Seattle. Look them all up. Give me projections on all of them. And
she's like, the fuck?
Like, she's like, all right. Publishing is kind of not like, it's a dying industry, but okay, if you really want to do this. And then as soon as Anna tells him which one she's taking the internship at, he's like, great. And then goes forward with the plan to buy it. After she says several times, I don't want to work with you. And he says, yep, I never fuck the help.
Yeah, and so he does this. He starts these proceedings. And his assistant, Ross, is like, this is going to cost like like she implies basically that it's going to cost more money than it's and effort than it's worth. But he's fucking Christian Grey, so of course he has to get his way, and he fucking says go for it. Now, it should be noted that all of the prelim stuff is while they're still having sex and while they still have a relationship. He only pulls the trigger to buy the company after the theoretical breakup.
No, he had the it was in the works, but then after the breakup, he pushes through with it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Like
is
he was it was already going to happen, but he doesn't end it when he should.
Yeah, and and he's like, well, I'm gonna get her back. Yeah, because and like he's like, I know I told her that we would have a clean break, but I'm gonna become her boss, and I'm gonna keep pursuing this relationship. It's just and everybody in his life is like, yeah, go for it, man. Go, you get her, right? Like you chase her down and you make her your. And it's no, this is not healthy. If he wasn't a billionaire, it would be the beginning of a fucking Law and Order SVU episode. I mean,
it hits that trope that all women want a man to fight for them. Like they push a guy away just so they can see how much he loves them, and it's god awful because women don't actually want that, especially if they say no, I don't want that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that when a woman says I don't want to be with you,
she means I don't want to fucking be with you. And just fuck this book. There is no fucking reason for this fucking book. It's just like, and the thing that galls me is that once again, E.L. James had to fucking bite off of Stephanie Meyer. Because Stephanie Meyer had the idea to basically do this. To rewrite Twilight from Edward's perspective. And she had started it. She had started it years and years ago. And she had several chapters done. And somebody, some totally unethical person, released those chapters into the wilds of the internet. And
I like to think of this person as a modern day Batman.
they aren't the publisher that we need. But
someone released this knowing she'd go, oh my god, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah, and so she did. But of course, because Stephanie Meyer thought it, E.L. James went ahead with the idea. And that's why we have this fucking piece of shit book. And everything in this book is just god awful. He is not a sympathetic character. He is, and like, and so one of the things I mentioned to Tyler that just bugged the ever living fuck out of me is, if you'll remember back to the Duke Otterland fucking, what was that fucking book? God, Org's Odyssey. Remember how every fucking character who wasn't Org had their fucking saying, the phrase they repeated over and over again that they had to put into every sentence? So Christian Grey, from the very get-go, refers to Anna as baby. Baby, 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 baby. And it is totally, it's not meant as a term of endearment. Like, when he starts out talking to her or thinking about her in his head, it's dismissive. It is thinking that she is he means baby like she's a child. And it continues even when they're together. When he uses that term, it's dismissive.
See, I read it as just him being a slimy sexist who calls all women baby.
I don't know See, the thing is, he doesn't refer to anybody else as baby, right? Like, when he thinks about his other subs, he doesn't think of them as baby. And of course we have the whole later's baby bullshit from the movie that was totally awkward and just not genuine or realistic at all. But I mean, like,
it was supposed to be an inside joke because his brother said that to
Kavanagh.
Kate.
Yeah, Kate Kavanagh.
And they were making fun of him, and it was like their inside joke.
Yeah. But like, here's one of like the first things. Like, so during the interview, the initial interview, one of the things that Christian says, because he basically implies that at a whim he could cause 20,000 people to be without jobs and go hungry, and Hannah's response, of course, is like, "Wow, that'd be an ultimate dick move." And his thought is, "Her mouth pops open at my response. That's more like it. Suck it up, baby. I feel my equilibrium returning." Because he's like, "I have to be a dick. I have to be a douche. Like that. Like the world is out of whack if somebody has one up on me, and I'm going to be an asshole until I feel like I'm back on top in some way." It's
and that's how basically the entirety of the book goes. Anytime he loses in his mind, basically when someone didn't do what he wanted or what he expected,
he has to lash out.
He has to lash out, and that's so unhealthy.
Yeah, right. and also, it's fucking juvenile, right? Like my 4-year-old, has is like, no, I win. Like, every game with my son right now is heads I win, tails you lose. Like that's just it. And that's because he's a fucking 4-year-old, right? Children do not have the emotional maturity to be able to accept losing with any kind of grace, or have the empathy to say, I lost, but you won, and you winning is awesome, right? Like, think about like when you're playing a game and someone pulls off something just totally creative and awesome and wins. Like me, I'm like, wow, that's something new and novel. I've never seen that before. Fucking good show. But like, Christian Grey would be like, fuck you, and would, basically go fucking flip the table and be like, I'm not playing this fucking game anymore. Or he'd go and sulk about the fact that he lost like a fucking child until someone bought him an ice cream or something equally fucking juvenile. And yeah, it's God, fuck this fucking book, man. I never want to read anything with this ever again.
Here's the good thing about it. We've talked about it now for, I think, close to 40 minutes now. Maybe a little less. I think we've covered everything there is to cover about Grey. Because there was so little new material, we don't have to do an hour about this.
So
we've got plenty of other things to talk about today.
Before we finally put this fucker to bed. Did Anna come across as slightly more sane? Like, and I don't mean like she was crazy in the first book, but like,
oh yeah, when you're not seeing inside her head.
Yeah, she comes across as more reasonable. Like,
right,
that's the
incredibly.
thing. Is that E.L. James, I don't think she really gets people. Right? Like, she writes caricatures of people. Right? Like, they look, like, from a distance, they might look like people. But when you get inside their head, you realize that they are not, that they are some weird sort of mutant that who puppets and acts and like apes like they're a human and a person with emotions and feelings, but really they are just all kind of childish, immature facsimiles of human beings, in my opinion. And Joe, if you listen to this, I don't give a shit if she's pants. I don't care. I don't care. Because now we know the type of man that E.L. James thinks women should want. And that is everything I said in the first podcast, everything I've said in the second podcast. And that's terrible. And I don't care if it's fantasy. I think it's terrible. And I'm glad. And with that, I will say nothing more about E.L. James until she does the impossible and writes her own unique novel that is all her and not Stephanie Meyer. So
I don't think we're going to ever see that happen.
I fully expect that we're going to see a book about gold-eyed aliens from E.L. James. That they aren't slugs or worms, they're spiders. And that's why they're unique, because they're
I thought they were more
arachnids.
like jellyfish.
Or sea slugs or some... fuck this book.
Right?
Can we... Okay. Let's talk about other shit, because God, fuck, it fucking hurts my head. All right. Anyway.
I did not realize this was going to be this big of a thing. I'm amazed. So let's talk about what we've got coming up. October 2nd through 4th.
Yes.
This year is Convolution 2015. We will have soon a discount code if you were planning on going. If you've not bought your tickets yet, we will provide a code. Well, they're going to provide us with a code that we can then give to you that you can use to get a discount ticket.
And you should, because
you absolutely should.
And
it's awesome. It's a great con. Lots of content this year.
And your hosts will be in more stuff, like Dan and Ed. I know are going to be. They're going to try and get on more panels, so you can get them when they're sober, and they actually have some good insights.
We do not guarantee that they will be sober.
I didn't say shit about guaranteeing anything.
You just said get them when they're sober. We cannot guarantee
but
their sobriety.
At some point, they will be sober, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I've already sent off the email to the Convolution staff requesting that. They actually had sent out to their the people who are going to be participating in the con to, if you want this, let us know. And they just haven't gotten back to me yet. I expect I'll probably get that next week.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great.
So check the Facebook group or the website where we'll put that discount code.
I'll put that up there.
As soon as we get it, it'll go up.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to happen. So the way that Convolution does it is that the panel process is a kind of a 3-step process where they send out a survey. And this year they started the process nice and early, which is good. Because last year it felt a little bit rushed. Like the panel schedule, I think, came out like 2 weeks before the con or something like that. It just felt a little rushed last year. This year it feels like they're getting started early, nice and early, so we can talk about things and talk up the con, which is great. So this year so basically you if you're interested in the con, you contact them, and then they send out a survey basically of what kind of topics. Like, here are some general topics like science fiction and comic books and costuming and actual science and fandom. So like general topics like that, and then basically you write back with ideas, subtopics within those kind of genres of topics, and
and I always put on all of those, I am literally not qualified to talk about anything, and they put me on panels, and they're always entertaining as hell. So
yeah. And so they And once you do that, basically, and you can check off like, I am okay to lead this panel, or I am okay to just participate, or I think this would just be a neat panel to have in general, but I don't care if I'm on it or not. And so the participants send those surveys back, and then the convolution staff, I don't know, they probably get together and talk about them and decide to come up with an initial list. And they send that list of specific panels out to everybody, and they're divided up by those genres. And then you sign up for them, and you say, yes, I will do this one, or I'd like to do this one, or I'd like to do this one. And this year, I was on that list for 2 panels. And if, as far as I know, just having that out there does not guarantee that the panels are going to happen, because I would assume if there's not enough interest from other people to be on those panels, then they won't happen. But one of the panels was on the idea of modern mythologies, so creating like new mythologies that have come up. And I don't mean necessarily in books, but in real life, like mythologies that people have adapted for us now. I have some kind of great stuff regarding that to talk about, and some subjects along that. And then the other one was creepypasta, which is of course a take on copypasta, which is just a slang term for copy and paste. But creepypasta is basically like modern internet age ghost stories. And like, when I was growing up, when I was much younger, an example of that would be the story of Bloody Mary, right? Like, you go into a dark bathroom with a candle, and you look in the mirror and you say Bloody Mary 3 times or 5 times or however many times, and then supposedly she appears in the mirror and any number of bad things happen to you, and that's it. And creepypasta are more current, relevant, more modern versions of that sort of thing. And so those are the 2 topics panels that I'm supposedly leading. And then there are a bunch that I thought looked cool, and I said I'd sign up and do those. So who knows? Maybe I will be leading one of those 2 panels and be on a couple of others. Did you see anything that you thought might be awesome?
I honestly couldn't tell you what I checked on that thing, because I did it right after we moved. So my memory is somewhat hazy.
Yep. And
at any rate, I put down that I'd be willing to speak. I don't think I volunteered to moderate any panels, just because I don't know what my schedule is going to look like leading up to the con at this point.
Yeah. Same here. But yeah, convolution, first week in October. You guys should totally come. We're going to have a giant room, or at least more giant than the previous rooms. We're reading Torrents of Gore. Yeah, come check it out. It'll be awesome. There may be Muppets of Gore. So if you want an example of the terribleness of gore, go to Google and search for house plants of gore. And that will kind of give you an example, kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic take on it. And we are probably going to do our own, which is Muppets of Gore. This was an idea put forward, and yeah, I think this needs to happen in the same vein of like our dirigible dogfight and everything else. So, what else?
We may be doing something special at our panel at Convolution based on a charity drive that will be going up on probably Indiegogo very soon, within the next few days.
Yes.
Wait till it goes up and you'll see. We've talked a little bit about it. It may or may not happen depending on what we get. But
has the person in that the charity that's directly related to charity, has he said a dollar amount that we need to raise in order for him to do the thing?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Dan, remember the charity drive to do the thing? Because he said that he'd only do it if we were able to raise money. Has he said a dollar amount?
That's what I'm waiting for. One of those things that I'm waiting before I put the thing up. Before I put the campaign up. But it involves public humiliation of the hosts.
Of course, because we can't have a convolution without something terrible happening to us.
Right. So check that out, and probably won't have a whole lot of stretch goals and things like that. It'll just be one set goal that if it gets met very quickly, the hosts will convene and debate further things.
Yeah.
But right now we just want to do this one thing, and I'm so not ready for it.
Oh, it's going to be...
I need to do some crunches.
You and me both. All right, so
again, check the Facebook group and the website whydaddydrinks.net in the next week for those things, the discount code and the charity drive information. Anything you can give will be awesome. We may do JDRF again, but we may also do 826 Valencia, which is the charity that Convolution is working with. They're all the charitable fundraising efforts from the con are going to go to this charity called 826 Valencia that does books and writing workshops for the at-risk youths. And it's a really great charity, and I've been following them for a while. They have a pretty cool store. I think it's in San Francisco. That is like a pirate store, and the kids go through this store, through a secret door in the store, to get to their writing workshops. It's really awesome. But yeah, it's a pirate store.
Nice. All right, so next month's book. Who is responsible for this piece of shit? Oh,
listener.
Yes, it's a listener. Anasty Lovely, or Anasty.
I think it's saying Anastay.
Anastay Lovely.
Please correct us if we butchered that.
Yeah,
we've never heard it said out loud.
Yeah, spell it out on
We've
a
been drinking.
post. And
the book is called A Mermaid's Kiss.
God damn it. God fucking damn it. Last year, listening audience, you may remember that there was very briefly, but apparently not fucking briefly enough, this giant spasm on the internet as people realized that there are writers who take advantage of Amazon self-publishing to publish books that are basically people being fucked by dinosaurs, mythological creatures, sometimes inanimate objects come to life. One spoof of this trend was I was fucked in the butt by my own butt. You can look that up. That exists. Or I was turned gay by a billionaire dinosaur, something like that. And when people, of course, started flinging these at us, I'm like, no, these are, first of all, these books are like 50 pages long, right? These are not meant to be serious works, right? These are things that are put out there to titillate, to make people laugh. And I'm sure that there are some people who want to get their rocks off thinking about velociraptors having sex with human ladies, or griffins or dragons swooping down and plucking them off of whatever and having sexy time with them. I'm sure there are people out there who think that's hot, but these are not meant to be serious. Like they're a throwaway. They're in some cases meant to be utterly ridiculous. And I was like, no, we're
I'm
not
pretty sure
fucking
fucking
reading.
the butt by my own butt is like
Oh,
very
that's
similar to the Kobold Wizard's Dildo of Enlightenment, bizarro fiction, intentionally bad kind of thing. But this
sure.
book, this suggestion, I read the description of it, and it did not come off. It did not strike me as one of those books. The book is called A Mermaid's Kiss by Joey W. Hill.
And he dubs himself national best-selling, and
Joey is
she
a lady.
I
National
don't know.
best-selling doesn't take a lot to do that. It's sold by Penguin Group, which means that's a pretty big publisher. So they can just be like, you're going to buy this book. Every grocery store in the world is going to sell this fucking book in America.
She's got a book called Taken Vampire Queen, which looks like a lady getting DP'd by two shirtless dudes.
The Vampire Trinity. So there's a whole bunch of book 11 of the Vampire Queen series. So Joey W. Hill, very prolific writer.
And
prolific books.
And this book is 300, and this A Mermaid's Kiss is 388 pages.
So a little more than half the length of Grey.
I hate you, Asti.
Luckily, we're going to have some help with this. Kendra has agreed to join us for the reading of this book.
Yeah, because when I read it, I was like, Kendra. So Kendra really likes mermaids. Now she also
really
it should be
likes mermaids.
Now it should be said that the mermaids she likes are the mermaids that are not the cutesy Disney mermaids. These are like the I will fucking lure you to your death and hold you underwater until you fucking drown, and then I will steal your soul mermaids.
Disney had mermaids like that in the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yes.
They turn into fucking sharks.
Yeah, that was actually kind of freaking awesome, and then they tore people apart and shit. So when this book was suggested and my opposition to it was worn down, I decided that, all right, I'm gonna make lemonade out of these lemons, and said that Kendra should join us, in part because I want to get a ringtone of her saying "fuck her" right in the cloaca, because I think that would be hilarious to hear her say. And so, yeah, we're going to be reading a book about a guy having sex with a mermaid next month.
Luckily, it's a short book. So in that time, we're also going to read a good book. Well, what we hope is a good book, because we hoped Steelheart was going to be a good book, too.
Yeah.
There is a book.
Yes, and I've got it up here. It's called The Dinosaur Lords, and it's by a guy named Victor Milan, who I really want to say that I've read something else by him. And one of the initial reasons why I wanted to read this book, he's written a lot of other stuff. He's written stuff for
MechWarrior, Star Trek,
the
Cybernetic Samurai. I might buy that. It's only $1.
I want to say he wrote. Maybe he didn't write the one I'm thinking about. But anyway, and on the cover, the the other offer blurb is, it's like a cross between Jurassic Park and Game of Thrones, as said by George R.R. Martin. And if George R.R. Martin is going to pimp your book, and it's the first book of any kind of significance you've put out in a while, because like the MechWarrior and the Star Trek books are definitely a lot more current than his other ones. Like the Cybernetic Samurai looks like it was something that was written like the 70s or the 80s. He has something called.
That just means the technology he imagined in those books might actually exist now.
Yeah.
This is making that much better to read. So the cover of Dinosaur Lords, it's like a dude in plate armor with a lance on the back of a fucking giant raptor. This looks amazing.
Yeah.
The from the author section on the page says, almost 12 years to the day before the release date for the Dinosaur Lords, I set out to write the most entertaining novel, my passion, and then nearly 3 decades of experience as a professional writer would enable me to. I believe I succeeded. You judge. I can safely say if you love the cover, as I do, of course, you'll most likely enjoy the book as well. Welcome to paradise, El Mundo de los Dinosaurios. I can't wait to read this.
I hope. That's all I can say is I have hopes. So anyway, we're gonna read those two this next month. Hopefully, a Mermaid's
This book came out
Kiss.
2 days ago, by the way.
Yeah, and hopefully, a Mermaid's Kiss is not. Well, what am I gonna say? Of course, I hope it's terrible. It's for this podcast. But hopefully the Dinosaur Lords will be better than we thought Steelheart was. So you're going to get 2 podcasts next month. There you go. All right. We've talked about convolution. We talked about the cherry drive. We talked about this stuff. I think that's pretty much it for this podcast. What do you think?
I got half a bottle of cider. Hang on a sec.
Chug, 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 chug. Good job.
All right, we can be done now.
I am not going to do that with my glass of Jameson's that I still have left because I have to be functional.
Oh man, this cider was so good too. This is the Private Reserve Woodchuck Belgian White. Belgian style cider. Really tasty. Not too sweet.
I'll have to look for that. All right, so that is it for season 4, episode 7, Gray by Gray, 50 Shades of Grey as told by Christian Grey. Bullshit for this book. Sorry, I had to get that last fuck this book out of my throat. It just got stuck there earlier. You have anything else, Ty?
Just that your pain is delicious to me.
I fucking hate
it. I love that you hated this so much. I read this book on a cruise in Alaska on our couple of at sea days. And then to reward myself, I read Ernest Cline's new book, Armada, which was like half the length and so disappointed me in that it was done in a quarter of the time it took me to read Gray. And I was like, this is not equitable. God damn it.
All right, I'm glad.
Anyway, no, I have nothing else tonight.
I'm holding you that promise.
Until she publishes something new
and original,
just not 50 Shades of Grey.
Not 50 Shades of Grey. Okay,
we know whatever else she writes is going to be a rip off of something else.
Oh sure,
because that's E.L. James.
She's up.
Until she produces something in a new universe.
Yes.
We will no longer read E.L. James' work.
Watch, it's going to be 50 Shades of Grey as told by Taylor.
We won't read that though because that won't be anything new.
Thank you. All right, so this is season 4, episode 7 of Your Book Is Why Daddy Drinks. I'm Matt.
I am Tyler.
Good night.